Welcome, deep divers, to another journey into the insights that shape our understanding of life's most profound challenges and transformations. Today, we're taking a closer look at a truly critical juncture in the path to recovery. Step 2, the 12 steps.
Hmm.
But we're not just scratching the surface, we're diving deep into it, specifically through a unique and essential lens tailored for women. Our guide for this exploration is Stephanie Covington's incredibly important work, A Woman's Way Through the 12 Steps, along with, well, a rich array of other sources that illuminate this often misunderstood stage of healing.
That's right. Our mission for this deep dive is to truly unpack the distinct landscape of belief and spirituality for women in recovery. We want to move beyond traditional and at times potentially alienating concepts of a higher power.
Right, those old ideas that might not fit.
Exactly. The goal is to explore how women can cultivate a more loving, empowering understanding that genuinely aids in their healing and in restoring their sanity, making the spiritual tools of recovery not just available, but truly accessible and, deeply relevant for their individual journeys.
It's about finding a path that really works for you.
Precisely. One that feels authentic and supportive rather than something handed down that just doesn't quite fit.
So, okay, let's unpack this. We're starting with step 2, and for anyone familiar with the 12 steps, you know the classic phrasing.
Yeah.
Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Such a powerful line.
It really is. And this statement is so powerful because it comes directly after step 1, where we admit powerlessness over alcohol or, any addiction, and acknowledge that our lives have become unmanageable. There's a natural, almost inevitable progression here, isn't there?
Absolutely. You hit bottom, you admit you can't do it alone.
Yeah, that's surrender.
And then you start looking for something, anything that can help. It's that moment of desperation opening the door to hope.
So let's talk about that sanity part, because it's not just about putting down the drink, is it?
No, not at all. The sanity aspect of step 2 is often misunderstood as simply stopping the addictive behavior. But, as some of the literature reminds us, it's far more comprehensive.
More holistic.
Yes, exactly. It's about restoring a complete mental and emotional well-being, moving beyond the chaos, the distortion, and the self-deception that addiction brings. Think of it as reclaiming your authentic self from the grip of a disease that has hijacked your mind and spirit.
That makes sense. But getting there, there's often resistance, right? Especially to the God idea.
Oh, definitely. For many, there's an initial resistance or even fear towards this God idea, especially if they have complicated feelings about religion, maybe past spiritual trauma, or even just issues with authority figures.
Yeah, that baggage can be heavy.
It really can. However, what often helps break through this initial barrier is simply witnessing the profound changes in others who are walking the path. Seeing others solve their problems and find peace through reliance on, let's call it a spirit of the universe or a higher power, can really help overcome doubt.
It's the proof, right? Seeing it work for someone else.
Exactly. It's a very practical, observable shift that speaks volumes, showing you what's possible. It's not about being preached at.
That makes so much sense. It's the evidence in front of you, the living proof. And speaking of foundations, I remember an interesting comparison between early AA's spiritual roots and another historical movement, the Washingtonians.
Ah, yes, that's a really important distinction.
Yeah, one source notes that while the Washingtonians, a popular 19th century temperance movement, largely emphasized willpower and mutual aid among, well, ex-drunks.
Which had its place, certainly.
Right. But AA placed a much stronger emphasis on spiritual centering and humility. This really sets the stage for why step 2 and this idea of a higher power is so integral to AA's enduring success. It's a core difference in philosophy, isn't it?
It is, and it's a critical distinction that really differentiates AA's approach.
Right.
The Washingtonians, though a powerful movement in their time, largely focused on pledges and the strength of individual will. Their core belief was kind of if you willed yourself to stop and had the support of your peers, you could overcome addiction.
Sort of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps idea.
Pretty much. There was little mention of deep personality change or spiritual conversion in their methodology. AA, conversely, recognized that individual willpower alone was often insufficient against the insidious and cunning nature of addiction.
Because addiction isn't just a habit.
Exactly. It understood that addiction wasn't just a bad habit, but a disease of the mind, body, and spirit. The spiritual centering in AA wasn't about enforcing a rigid dogma, but about a fundamental shift in perspective, acknowledging a power greater than ourselves as the ultimate source of strength and change.
So it's about letting go of that idea that you have to do it all yourself.
Precisely. This emphasis on humility, on understanding our individual limitations and reaching out for help, paved the way for a deeper, more sustainable transformation. It allowed individuals to tap into a wellspring of strength beyond their own often faltering self-reliance, offering a sense of hope and power when their own felt completely depleted.
It's like acknowledging you're not the captain of every ship.
Right. And sometimes a bigger force is needed to navigate the storm.
So it sounds like AA wasn't just offering a new method, but a completely different philosophical approach to recovery. For someone struggling with addiction, why is that distinction between willpower and spiritual centering so profound in practice? What does it feel like to make that shift?
Oh, it's truly profound, because for so long, the addicted individual has likely tried everything through sheer willpower. They've promised themselves, their families, their doctors, that this time will be different.
And the guilt when it isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And often, those promises are broken, leading to immense guilt, shame, and a feeling of utter failure. The constant reliance on self, on that prideful ego, as some texts call it, becomes exhausting and ultimately ineffective.
Just draining.
Completely. When someone finally reaches step 2 and truly embraces the idea of a power greater than themselves, it's often described as a tremendous relief. It's the feeling of finally putting down a burden they were never meant to carry alone.
Ah, like setting down a heavyweight?
Yes, it's a surrender, not of defeat, but of an old, broken way of fighting to a new, more effective way of healing. It shifts the burden of perfection from themselves to this higher power, allowing them to finally breathe and open up to possibilities they couldn't conceive of before.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially for our listener. Building on that foundation, what truly sealed its efficacy for so many comes down to a simple yet incredibly profound observation. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did.
That line always hits hard.
Doesn't it?
Mhm.
This isn't some abstract theological debate. It's a statement of pragmatic lived experience, right? It implies a very practical, effective solution to a problem that once seemed insurmountable.
Absolutely. It's not about abstract theology, but about observable, real-world results. Think of it as finding an anchor in the midst of a sea of woes, as that same reflection puts it.
An anchor, I like that.
Yeah. This isn't about subscribing to a specific religious dogma. It's about shifting from the often destructive path of the prideful ego, that deep-seated belief we can conquer everything on our own, even when it's clearly not working, to a steady, consistent strength that comes from outside or beyond our individual limitations.
Moving beyond the self.
Right. It's about opening to a new, vital dimension of life, much like Marta describes in A Woman's Way, realizing addiction birthed my spirituality. This resonates deeply because it mirrors the very personal questions many women ask.
Those core questions.
Yes. Who or what is this power? Can I trust it? What do I believe? What about church? What does it feel like to have a spiritual life? Am I spiritual? These are universal and deeply personal queries for anyone beginning this journey, emphasizing that this is your path to define.
Those questions are so relatable. They really highlight the confusion and the curiosity that naturally arise when you're embarking on such a profound internal shift. But if step 2 is this powerful gateway to sanity and spiritual awakening, we need to talk about the specific obstacles that can make this step uniquely challenging for women.
Absolutely critical to address this.
One significant hurdle, and Covington's work really brings this to light, is overcoming those traditional, often punitive conceptions of a higher power. Many women come into recovery seeking a loving God, not that punishing God I feared before coming to AA.
That's a direct quote that speaks volumes.
It does. That patriarchal, judgmental image of God can be a massive barrier to surrender, can't it?
It truly can be an enormous hurdle. For many women, cultural or religious upbringing has deeply ingrained a view of God as a punitive, judgmental, or even, absent figure, making it incredibly difficult to cultivate trust and surrender in recovery.
If that's your image, why would you trust it?
Exactly. If you grew up believing God was constantly watching, ready to punish mistakes, or if you felt ignored in times of suffering, then the idea of turning your will over to that kind of power is terrifying, not comforting.
Absolutely terrifying.
It's interesting because this isn't a new struggle. Even figures like Augustine in his Confessions wrestled with similar questions centuries ago. He recounts his intellectual battle to find spiritual truth beyond just the charm of words, realizing how literal interpretations, when he took them literally, had essentially killed him spiritually.
Wow, that's a powerful ancient parallel.
Isn't it? This ancient struggle provides a strong parallel to the modern challenge women face. How do you reinterpret spiritual concepts that feel alienating or even harmful? How can one truly trust a potentially punishing God with their deepest vulnerabilities and the immense shame and guilt often associated with addiction?
You really can't.
No. A loving, supportive image of a higher power is not just preferred, it's absolutely crucial for genuine healing and restoration.
That's a profound point, linking those ancient struggles to what people, especially women, face today. And another poignant observation from Covington's work that speaks to this internal struggle is the profound emptiness so many women feel when they first enter recovery.
Yes, that feeling of being hollowed out.
She notes, many of us don't feel a sense of spirituality inside when we first come into recovery. Instead, we may feel numb or empty. We may not know there's anything inside us at all. This directly challenges the common suggestion to look inside for spirituality.
It really does. Because if there's nothing there, or if what's there is just a void, where do you even begin this internal exploration? It creates a real paradox.
So why does that numbness happen?
Well, it's a critical insight, highlighting a profound internal experience for many women in early recovery. This numbness or emptiness isn't random. It's often a direct consequence of addiction itself. Alcohol, for example, is frequently used as a sedative or distraction from internal pain.
A way to cope or avoid coping.
Precisely. Substances mask deeper feelings, creating this very sense of emptiness. Alcohol and drugs essentially become a way to numb pain, avoid feelings, and fill a perceived void, but in doing so, they actually create a deeper, more profound emptiness.
It's a cruel irony.
It is. So when sobriety begins, that protective numbness can lift, revealing a raw, frightening void. The initial questions women ask, as outlined in A Woman's Way, am I really empty? Is there anything that can fill me? Can love do that? Can another person do that? Can God or a higher power reveal a profound, almost primal longing for internal substance and connection?
A desperate search for something real.
Yes, a desperate search for something to truly make them whole.
And this isn't just a feeling, is it? This emptiness is also deeply connected to the brain's functioning in addiction. I remember reading about the brain lock phenomenon.
Ah, yes, Gabor Mate talks about that quite a bit. It's a powerful concept.
Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. Imagine your brain essentially getting stuck, where drugs or addictive behaviors damage the parts that exercise conscious will, making it incredibly hard to hold on to a healthy sense of self. The addicted mind lacks consistency. Emotional states and thought patterns fluctuate rapidly.
So it's hard to know who you even are?
Exactly. This makes it difficult for many addicts to even conceive of who they might be without their addiction, as they often define themselves through it, fearing that void and the loss of what felt like a defining, albeit destructive, part of their identity. The mind feels unmoored and lost.
And the addiction provides a twisted kind of structure.
Paradoxically, yes. The addictive behaviors and substances become a way of imposing a structure, a destructive one, but a structure nonetheless on that internal chaos. So when the suggestion is made to look inside, for someone experiencing this profound emptiness or the instability of the brain lock, it can feel not only confusing, but also utterly impossible.
Like being asked to navigate a pitch black room.
A very apt analogy. They may genuinely believe there's nothing to look at, or that what they find will be terrifying, or simply a continuation of the same self-loathing. This highlights why Step 2's invitation to connect with an external or greater power can be so liberating and necessary.
Ah, so it provides that initial anchor.
Exactly. It provides that initial anchor before they can begin to explore their own internal spiritual landscape. It allows for a gradual rediscovery of self, rather than an immediate, overwhelming internal search into a perceived void. It provides the initial stability needed to even begin that internal excavation.
Beyond the internal experience, women also face unique societal pressures and challenges to their self-worth that can profoundly complicate Step 2. There's that stark observation. Society looks down on women who drink.
That judgment is real and pervasive.
And this judgment often leads to hidden drinking, which in turn amplifies feelings of shame and isolation. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The very act of drinking to cope with societal pressure creates even more pressure and shame, making it incredibly difficult to ask for help or admit vulnerability.
Which is what the steps require.
Precisely. It's a deeply ingrained societal bias that women often internalize, and it creates a painful confidence paradox.
Explain that paradox.
Well, while alcohol may initially offer a fleeting boost to confidence, a sense of power or allure, it ultimately makes one, as Sarah Alopola powerfully recounts, look their worst. She describes feeling so sexy while drunk, only to later realize what a sadistic game drinking played with her self-perception.
That disconnect sounds incredibly painful.
It is. This profound disconnect between her internal feeling of allure and the external reality of her appearance and behavior is a common and painful experience for many women, directly impacting their sense of self-worth and creating a significant barrier to the self-acceptance that step 2 demands.
And it ties into how women's self-worth is often linked to external things.
Yes, exactly. This external judgment and the resulting internal shame are intricately linked to broader issues of self-worth that are often tied to external validation. As Courage to Change wisely states, self-esteem grows when I love and accept myself as I am. I block my own well-being each time I base my self-worth on what I do or what others think of me.
So that external focus clashes with the internal work of step 2.
Directly. Step 2 calls for an internal spiritual validation, which is hard when you've been conditioned to seek it outside yourself.
That's a powerful connection. It's not just about the act of drinking, but about why one drinks and the whole social context. The root section in Quit Like a Woman gives such a comprehensive view of addiction's causes.
Yes, Holly Whitaker's work really broadens the lens there.
It does. It explains that addiction has far more to do with what happened to us in life than anything else, listing so many factors. Trauma, safety, family examples, environment, age of first contact, peers, coping skills, societal power, support networks, belonging, oppression.
All the isms.
Yeah.
Poverty, racism, sexism.
All of it. This really broadens the context immensely for the intense pressures women face, showing how systemic issues contribute to the vulnerability that addiction exploits. It makes you realize step 2 is even more challenging for some.
Indeed. It's a powerful reminder that addiction is rarely a simple moral failing, but a complex tapestry woven from personal history, societal structures, and individual coping mechanisms. When you, the listener, consider your own journey, understanding these broader roots can be incredibly liberating.
Shifting from blame to understanding.
Exactly. It shifts the narrative from personal blame to contextual understanding. This systemic perspective highlights why a loving, non-punitive higher power and a supportive, non-judgmental community are so essential for women. When your identity has been so intertwined with a false sense of confidence provided by alcohol, detaching from that and finding genuine self-worth becomes a monumental task.
It's not just fighting the substance.
No, you're not just fighting an addiction. You're often fighting years of internalized societal judgment and personal trauma.
So given these profound and unique barriers, especially for women, how do we begin to cultivate a personal, loving higher power that truly supports recovery? It sounds like the flexibility of the steps is absolutely key here.
It is. That flexibility is crucial.
As Bill sees it, reminds us that there are few absolutes inherent in the 12 steps. Most steps are open to interpretation based on the experience and outlook of the individual. This inclusivity seems absolutely crucial for women moving past those rigid, inherited religious interpretations that might have caused pain or alienation.
It is, and this flexibility is one of AA's most profound and, frankly, revolutionary strengths. It completely dismantles the idea that you have to subscribe to a particular theology to recover.
Which is huge for many people.
Absolutely. For those who identify as atheist or agnostic, for example, their AA group or the fellowship itself can effectively serve as a higher power. The shared strength, wisdom, and collective experience of the group becomes that power greater than ourselves.
The group is the power.
In a very real sense, yes. This demonstrates the profound adaptability of the concept, allowing you to define it in a way that resonates. It's not about what you should believe, but what you can believe, what actually works for your recovery.
That's fascinating because it allows for such a wide spectrum of belief.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, consider the journey of Dr. Bob, one of AA's co-founders. Initially, he focused more on fellowship and moral psychology and kind of stayed away from the spiritual angle for a time in his early sobriety.
The practical scientific mind.
Right, he was a medical doctor, very much a man of science and practical application. However, he later engaged in a conscious search for truth through a concentrated study of the Bible and made a powerful discovery.
What was that?
That spirituality couldn't be absorbed by someone emulating a sponge, but that one might find it in healing and helping to free those afflicted and in bondage. His understanding evolved from a more intellectual or even practical approach to a deeply experiential and service-oriented one.
That's a fascinating evolution. It shows that even for a co-founder, the understanding of a higher power wasn't static. It changed and deepened over time. What does that signify for a newcomer today?
It signifies immense hope and validation for your personal journey. Dr. Bob's evolution demonstrates the deeply personalized journey to belief that the steps encourage. It tells you that your concept of a higher power is allowed to grow, shift, and deepen as you heal.
It doesn't have to be perfect from day one.
Not at all. It allows for a higher power that is loving, empowering, and deeply relevant to one's individual experience, rather than a prescribed, rigid doctrine. It moves away from external expectations and toward an authentic internal connection, which is vital for women who may have experienced spiritual alienation or been harmed by patriarchal religious structures.
So the program provides the frame, but you fill it in.
Precisely. The program provides the framework, but the content of that spiritual connection is truly for each individual to discover and shape, ensuring it truly serves your recovery. It's about finding your truth, not someone else's.
This shift is huge. From seeking traditional external validation to tapping into an internal source of power, often supported by a higher power. A Woman's Way acknowledges the initial confusion of looking inside to find our spirituality, especially when that inner space feels empty.
That paradox again.
But it also hints at the profound power of internal transformation that becomes possible once you start to define that higher power on your own terms.
Indeed. This marks a pivotal shift from what some texts describe as a treasured philosophy of self-sufficiency. Many enter recovery believing they can control everything through sheer willpower, still clinging to the idea that they should be able to manage their own lives despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Holding on to control even when it's not working.
Right. But the journey of step 2 is about developing a willingness to accept these new facts of living and a healthy dependence on a higher power. It's a surrender, but not a weakness. It's a strategic move to lean on a greater strength.
Like Tolstoy finding that thirst for God from his heart, overriding intellectual despair.
Exactly. That example shows that true spiritual understanding often bypasses the analytical mind, reaching a deeper, more intuitive part of our being, a place where logic alone cannot go.
So it's about recognizing that power isn't just external, but there's an inner capacity that awakens when you connect to something greater, something beyond your own limited self-will. It sounds like a rediscovery.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that, as a man thinketh suggests, we contain within ourselves a transforming and regenerative agency. This isn't about solo effort in isolation, though. It's about recognizing an inherent inner capacity for change, a divine spark, let's say, supported and amplified by a higher power.
Like Augustine going inward to see that immutable light.
Yes, it's an internal revelation, a deep knowing that you are connected to something vast and powerful. This aligns beautifully with the idea that the soul is divine, and in allowing it to become translucent to the infinite spirit, it reveals all things to us.
So the looking inside that felt impossible at first.
Ultimately leads to a profound internal source of power once the external higher power has provided the initial stability and connection. It's a reciprocal relationship where the external support helps you unlock the internal wisdom.
That leads perfectly into the crucial role of compassion and self-acceptance in this spiritual development. Covington emphasizes that practicing step 2 in a spirit of gentle observation and self-acceptance will release more guilt, confusion, and shame.
Oh, this is fundamental, truly transformational.
It sounds like a crucial step away from the harsh self-blame that so often accompanies addiction, especially for women.
It's absolutely fundamental. Self-compassion is the bridge from paralyzing guilt to empowering responsibility. As in the realm of hungry ghosts, notes regarding step 5, with compassion for ourselves, we fully acknowledge what we have found. Shame for our actions is replaced by a sense of responsibility.
So it's not about letting yourself off the hook.
Not at all. It isn't about excusing past behavior, but understanding it within context. Forgiving past extreme responses to extreme situations, knowing that perhaps we did the best we could at the time given our disease.
That reframing from Russell Brand's counselor is powerful. How clever of you to find drugs. Well done, you found a way to keep yourself alive.
Isn't that incredible? It reframes destructive behavior not as a moral failing, but as a misguided, often desperate attempt at survival, which fosters deep self-compassion and allows for a true path to healing.
It changes the whole narrative.
Completely. It's about recognizing the pain that led to the addiction, rather than just condemning the addiction itself.
That's a truly radical reframing, and it makes so much sense for the healing process. For our listener, this means acknowledging those problems and bringing them out into the light with another person, or even through deeply honest self-reflection, can dramatically diminish their power.
Light is a great disinfectant for shame.
This gentle self-examination is a far cry from the self-flagellation many might expect when confronting their past.
Indeed. The light of acknowledgement and compassion transforms these burdens. When you bring something that feels dark and shameful out into the light, its power to control you diminishes. It loses its grip.
It breaks the cycle.
Exactly. This gentle self-examination, rooted in compassion rather than judgment, allows for true insight and creates the space for a higher power to begin the restoration to sanity. It's a process of unraveling, not a battle of wills, and that gentleness is essential for deep, lasting change, especially for those who have been exceptionally harsh on themselves for years.
Like setting down that secret weight.
Yes, the moment you share it, the moment you allow someone else to see it, its weight begins to dissipate.
Healing from addiction, especially for women, is clearly a deeply personal and internal process, but it's also profoundly communal. Grace, in a woman's way, really stresses this. We don't recover in isolation. We heal in relationship and in connection with other people.
Such a vital truth. In recovery, we move from isolation to connection.
That emphasizes that recovery isn't a solitary endeavor, it's a journey undertaken with others.
She hits on a vital truth. Addiction, in its very essence, is a lonely business. It thrives in isolation, feeding on secrecy and shame. The disease itself often tells you that you are alone, that no one understands, and that you should hide your struggles.
The isolation is part of the illness.
Very much so. The 12 steps fundamentally counteract this by building a community, a fellowship. The AA principle that no man is an island is a direct counter to the isolating nature of the disease. There's even that stark warning that most of us will finally die alone if we don't work together and hang together.
Wow, that's blunt.
It underscores the profound, life-saving importance of connection and fellowship. It's not just a nice-to-have, but a crucial component of lasting sobriety.
So, practically speaking, how do people begin to forge these connections when they're new to recovery? It can be incredibly intimidating to walk into a room full of strangers and share your deepest vulnerabilities. What are some practical steps for you, the listener, to start building that network?
It can be very daunting, absolutely. That initial step often feels monumental, but the program offers very practical tools to ease into it. Living sober highlights the importance of telephone therapy and connecting with AAPN contemporaries in early recovery.
People who are also new.
Yeah, it notes that it often seems a little awkward to strike up friendships with people who've been sober for years because they might seem intimidatingly together. So connecting with those who are just setting out toward recovery can be more approachable.
Less pressure, maybe.
Right. Even if you don't know anyone, simply dialing the local AA number, which is readily available, can put you in touch with someone who honestly understands at gut level, offering genuine empathy. They've been there. They remember that feeling of newness and awkwardness.
Just reaching out is the first step.
Exactly. This initial accessible support is crucial for moving from isolation to meaningful relationships, creating a bridge to the larger fellowship.
That's a great reminder that help is always available, even through something as simple as a phone call, and that you don't have to navigate it alone. And sharing stories is such a cornerstone of the program, a powerful way to build those connections.
Huge. It's the lifeblood, really.
Covington puts it simply. The simplest way to 12-step someone is to tell the stories of our drinking or using behavior, how we began recovery, and what our experience has been with the steps. It's about being vulnerable and relatable, not prescriptive or preachy.
Exactly. This embodies the principle of attraction, not promotion. It's not about selling the program or telling people what to do. It's about offering support to anyone who's in need of it, whether they are a newcomer wrestling with step 2 or someone who's been in the program for years and is having a tough day.
Because suffering isn't limited to newcomers.
Not at all. The person who is still suffering could truly be anyone, anywhere. And sharing your own journey creates a space for identification and hope. This act of sharing is, in itself, a profound spiritual act, an extension of self, a gift of experience, strength, and hope to another. It builds bonds of empathy that transcend individual differences.
And the emotional impact of that shared experience must be immense. To see others truly see them, finding their way through it, to hear their stories and realize you're not alone in yours.
It is profound, truly. Seeing the love in their eyes in others who have found sobriety and hearing how much their one-day-at-a-time sobriety meant to them, that direct observation of transformed lives is a powerful catalyst.
It makes it real.
It helps build faith and hope in the newcomer that recovery is possible for them too. It's an undeniable, palpable energy that transcends mere words. Importantly, the courage to change emphasizes that what truly helps people heal is sharing what we have now, the freedom and the joy and the happiness, rather than dwelling solely on horror stories.
Focusing on the hope, not just the pain.
Exactly. While acknowledging past suffering is important, focusing on the positive transformation, the newfound peace, and the vibrancy of life in recovery is what truly inspires and attracts others to the path. It shows you the possibility of a life beyond anything you might have imagined in active addiction.
So step 2, like all the steps, isn't a one-time event you check off a list and then move on. It's the beginning of an ongoing journey, a continuous spiritual progress. Spiritual progress is the law of your being. That's a powerful statement.
It truly is. This principle of continuous growth is reinforced by step 11, which can keep us growing if we try hard and work at it continually. It's a commitment to ongoing self-examination, prayer, meditation, and spiritual development.
It never really ends, does it?
Well, Bill W. put it bluntly. We have to grow or else deteriorate. If spiritual progress seems slow or stagnant, the advice is to find out why, by examining our lives and by praying for wisdom and guidance. This ongoing introspection, supported by prayer and connection to our higher power and community, is essential not just for maintaining sobriety, but for living a full, rich life.
Like constantly tending your inner garden.
That's a lovely way to put it, yes.
That makes perfect sense. It's about constantly nurturing that connection and continuing to evolve, understanding that spiritual growth is a lifelong pursuit, not a destination. Do you have an example of how this continuous spiritual progress plays out in daily life, beyond just the big moments?
Yeah, a great, very relatable example comes from Courage to Change,
Yeah.
where someone in Al-Anon describes how the daily practice of Al-Anon principles helped deepen gratitude, effectively replacing negative thoughts. Initially, they simply made lists of things to be grateful for, but didn't feel very grateful. It felt forced.
Going through the motions.
Right. However, through daily application of Al-Anon principles, things like focusing on progress, not perfection, detaching with love, taking one day at a time, they gradually learn to appreciate small accomplishments and recognize small changes in themselves and their surroundings.
Small things add up.
Exactly. This gentle, consistent effort, even when initial feelings didn't align with the desired outcome, led to profound spiritual shifts over time, proving that spiritual progress is indeed an ongoing, active process. It shows that even small, consistent practices can accumulate into profound shifts in perspective and internal well-being.
What's fascinating here is how all these elements tie back to step 2's initial promise of releasing guilt, confusion, and shame. Covington specifically notes that through practicing step 2 in a spirit of gentle observation and self-acceptance will release more guilt, confusion, and shame.
The payoff.
This sounds like a core outcome, a fundamental liberation from the emotional burdens that weigh so heavily on those in addiction.
It is a profound liberation, moving beyond the paralyzing effects of shame. It's made clear that AA is not tears over defects, but sweat over fixing them, and that there's no maudlin guilt. The program is action-oriented. It's about practical steps towards growth, not about wallowing in past mistakes.
Getting unstuck from the past.
Precisely. The act of bringing things out into the light with another person, as in a moral inventory, causes them to lose their power over us. This is a profound shift from the internal conflict of addiction, where secrets and self-condemnation fuel the cycle, keeping you trapped.
Breaking free from that internal critic.
Yes, it's about disarming the internal critic through honesty, connection, and the compassionate support of a higher power and a fellowship. This liberation allows you to truly start building a new, authentic sense of self.
I think about Sarah Heppel's reflection again, where she realized she was more aware of how bored and lonely I was while I was drinking and how much more textured and varied life seems without it. That's such a powerful insight into this liberation.
It really is.
Replacing the hollowness of addiction with the richness and complexity of a sober life, it's not just about stopping something bad. It's about gaining something profoundly good.
Her insight perfectly illustrates this liberation. The texture and variety she found are precisely what Step 2 promises. A restoration to sanity and a life no longer dominated by the alcohol monster and the insatiable thirst for themselves created by addictive substances.
That monster.
Yeah, that monster demands constant feeding, constantly seeking to fill an unfillable void, leaving no room for genuine experience, genuine emotion, or genuine connection. When that monster is quieted, life truly opens up.
And that leads to the ultimate promise of recovery, doesn't it? Reclaiming one's true self. We recover the you that you are meant to be.
Beautifully put.
This isn't just about stopping drinking. It's about a complete rebirth of identity, a true homecoming.
It's about shedding the self that addiction molded and rediscovering the authentic, unimpaired self, the person you were always meant to be before the disease took hold. It's that paradox of AA regeneration. Strength arising out of complete defeat and weakness, the loss of one's old life as a condition for finding a new one.
Strength from surrender.
Exactly. This profound transformation leads to a genuine belief in the good within oneself and, as one reflection puts it, being loved back to recovery by my higher power. It's about becoming sober and grateful, with a life that is truly the opposite of boring without booze,
A full life.
a full, authentic life. The journey of step 2, particularly through a woman's lens, reveals that true freedom isn't found in escape, but in embracing a loving higher power, a supportive community, and a compassionate, authentic self. It's a journey to becoming truly whole.
What an incredible journey we've taken today through step 2. We've seen how, especially through the invaluable insights from Stephanie Covington's A Woman's Way, it's so much more than a simple belief statement.
So much more.
It's about courageously confronting inherited notions of a punitive higher power, acknowledging and addressing that profound internal emptiness so many women feel, and then finding immense strength and connection, self-compassion, and a deeply personal relationship with a loving guiding force.
Finding what works for you.
Exactly. Ultimately, it's a pathway to releasing guilt, confusion, and shame, allowing women to reclaim a vibrant, authentic self, a self they were always meant to be.
And as you, our listener, reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider your own concept of a higher power or guiding force in your life. What elements of your understanding are inherited, perhaps from childhood or societal norms, and which are truly authentically yours?
That's a great question to sit with.
How might reimagining this relationship, focusing on qualities like unconditional love, unwavering support, and non-judgment, unlock a deeper sense of healing and personal agency in your life? This isn't just about recovery from addiction,
It impacts everything.
It really does. It's about how that redesigned belief system can enrich all your connections, helping you to engage with the world around you with newfound clarity, compassion, and strength. The journey of step 2 is a continuous personal architectural redesign of belief, an ongoing unfolding toward a truth that feels uniquely yours.